Welcome back to the Walnut. As we know, simple interest and compound interest, it's a very important topic for almost all the aptitude type of exams. You can also expect such a question in your exam. Here I am going to discuss a very important and tricky concept from the topic simple interest and compound interest. There is nothing but the difference between simple interest and compound interest for a certain period. Here we just consider a principal amount of 10,000 and the rate of interest is 10% per annum. So it's a general statement. We are going to find out what's the difference between simple interest and compound interest on this particular amount at this certain rate of interest for 2 years. How we can find that difference? Either you have to find out the simple interest and compound interest separately, then find the difference. If the values are convenient like this, then you can apply that method. Otherwise, you can catch the answer with the help of a simple result. Both the ways of approaches that we can consider. First, general kind of approach. That means we are going to find out the simple interest and compound interest separately. There are also some very important tricks that we have to consider. So here we can consider. Here the difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years. First we are going to find out what's the difference between the simple interest and compound interest for 2 years. How we can conclude? Here we just consider simple interest and compound interest separately. For the first year, what is the simple interest? That's very simple. That is 10% of 10,000. What is 10% of 10,000? You can easily catch 10% of any quantity. That's very simple. 10% of 10,000. You just can take the decimal place one place towards left side. So this 10,000, its 10% is nothing but 1,000. So therefore, the simple interest for the first year, that is 1,000. Clear? And that's another very important understanding. Compound interest and simple interest for the first year at the same rate are equal. Therefore, the compound interest for the first year is also the same, that is also 1,000. And the next important understanding, for any year or each of the further years also, the simple interest is same, or simple interests are equal to this 1,000. For the second year, simple interest as per the given principal and given rate, that's also be equal to 1,000. There is a slight difference in the case of compound interest. What will happen if you need to find out the second year's compound interest? We got the first year's compound interest as per the given data, that is 1,000. For the second year, there is a simple trick that you have to apply. That is simply this 1,000 rupee plus 10% of 1,000. As we know, for the second year, the principal we have to consider, that is the amount at the end of the first year. Instead of calculating like that, here this is the most easiest trick that you can apply for the such type of questions also. What do you want to do? So for compound interest for the second year is this 1,000 plus 10% of 1,000. What is 10% of 1,000? That is simply 100. Clear? So here we have to find out what is the net difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years. You can easily catch what is that difference. So that difference is nothing but this, while we are adding both the quantities together. This is a net amount of 2,000. This is 2,100. What is the difference between simple interest and compound interest during this period for 2 years? That is simply this 100. Got it? 100 rupee. So therefore, we can easily catch this result with the help of this type of an illustration, because here the quantities are quite convenient. In the similar way, you can catch it for 3 years also. So before moving to that 3-year difference, we can consider what is the result-wise approach here. Suppose if it is a case of 2 years, directly you can apply a direct result. Here the result is very simple. Difference for 2 years is P into R by 100, the whole square. It's a simple result that you can apply to find out the difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years. So we can check how we can apply this result. So this is, in our present situation, principal amount is 10,000. Here that is 10,000. And the rate of interest is 10. So this is 10 by 100, the whole square. Or while simplifying this one, this is 10,000 into, this is 1 by 100. In further simplifications, what you will get? Your answer is 100. So that we already got here. So keep this result in your mind. This is the result for finding the difference between simple interest and compound interest for 2 years, as per a particular principal amount and the same rate of interest. Now we are moving to this case with the 3 years. Suppose we just consider for 3 years. What is the difference here? The same way we can consider the illustrations, simple interest and compound interest. So the given quantities are most convenient type of values, therefore you can easily assume the quantities here. So the first one, simple interest for the first year is 1000. As we know, for the further years also, the simple interest is same as 1000. Therefore, we can consider for the second year it also 1000, third year is also 1000. And what will be the total here? 3000. And on the right side, while considering the compound interest, as we know, the first year, both the simple interest and compound interest are same. Therefore, that also 1000. For the second year, you have to add 10% of this value to this quantity. Therefore, 1000 plus 10% of 1000, that is 100. So you can write it as 1100. While we are applying the same logic for finding the compound interest for third year, there again we are applying the same logic. What is 10% of 1100? That is simply 110. You just add that 110 to this value. What you will get? So that's equal to 110. So while we are adding these values together, so here we will get this quantity will be equal to. So this is 1100 plus 110. So this is 1210. And adding these all values together. Here again we just consider this thing, 1000 rupee for the first year compound interest. For the second year, for finding the compound interest, you just add 10% of 1000 to that value. Therefore 10% of 1000 is 100. 1000 plus 100 will be equal to 1100. For the next year or the third year, 1100 plus 10% of 1100. 1100's 10% is nothing but 110. While we are adding this 110 with this 1100, that will be equal to 1210. While we are adding these all values, that is 3310. You have to catch what's the difference here, so that we can easily conclude 310. This is the way for catching the difference between simple interest and compound interest on a certain sum at a certain rate of interest for 2 years or 3 years. If you will get, it's for the such advanced type of questions. If you need to find out the difference for 4 years or 5 years, but very rarely only you will get such type of question, but frequently you will get these two types of questions for 2 years or 3 years. The difference between simple interest and compound interest for 3 years, there also we have a result. So that result is, it's for 3 years. Result is very simple. Its first part is same, P into r by 100 the whole square. And one more extension here, that is 3 plus r by 100. So that's the difference. So this is the second very important result for 3 years. You can apply this value for catching the result. Here we just consider principal amount as 10,000. So this is 10,000 into r by 100 the whole square. As we know, this is 10 by 100 the whole square into 3 plus 10 by 100. Clear? Simplify these values, you will get again reach 310. This is the simple way to find out the answer for such type of questions from the very important concept and the very important topic, simple interest and compound interest. Whenever you will get such a type of question in your exam, you must follow this method. And at the same time, you have to keep this point in your mind. You can catch the answer through this way also. It's also an easy type of approach. But whenever it will become complicated, if the values are not at all friendly, then only it will take too much time. Then you have to remember these two results for 2 years and for 3 years. Thanks for watching.